Hey guys, Bicebump here, bringing you this Dragonflight Frost Death Knight video, specifically talking about why you should play the Frost Death Knight in Dragonflight. I know you are looking for your main currently, a couple weeks left until the expansion launches, and I hope that this video will help you make an informed decision whether or not that main should be the Frost Death Knight. We'll cover both the positives and negatives, talk about how it feels to play, that kind of thing. Summarizing it though, I would say the positives are that we have a lot of abilities that were previously very popular have returned in the Frost Death Knight talent loadout in Dragonflight, right? Things like Chill Streak, Icy Citadel, Frost Swells, Indignation, those kind of spells that used to be fun to play with are now back. Yeah. There's generally a variety of builds you can play, and we specifically have Breathsting Negosa builds and Obliteration builds, and it's going to be a fight dependent and kind of dungeon dependent choice what you run. It means that there's, you have a kind of big cooldown every 2-minute build or a very quick and bursty build that you can choose from, and I think that's definitely a positive. We are incredibly powerful on any cleave, mostly 2-target cleave. I'd say that the Frost Death Knight has a very specific niche for 2-target cleave, and it is best in the game at doing specifically that. That's going to be very useful in low target count dungeons or any encounter where you face more than one target. Finally, we're also incredibly tanky. Very helpful. It means that you simply won't die that much. Now, the negatives, I'd say we don't have the best utility. It's the same with, Unholy DK. We don't bring a raid buff, which means that we might sometimes be benched because we simply don't bring enough to the group, especially if we don't have the best priority damage, for instance. We are vulnerable to forced downtime. If you, in an encounter, you have to run away from the boss, that can be significant when it comes to your DPS throughput as the Frost DK. And finally, since our niche is in cleave, it means that you might be doing a lot of overall damage, but your priority damage might not be as good. Okay, so that was the positives and negatives really quickly. Let's dig a bit deeper. So I mentioned we have new interesting talents that used to be very popular, and I think Chill Streak is one of them. It was previously a PvP talent only. We did see it in PvE in late BFA when we could pick up the Conflict and Strive Azerite Power. I can't remember what it was called exactly. We can now pick it up whenever we want. It's a fun ability to press and very, very powerful in cleave scenarios. We have Enduring Strength, which is essentially Icy Citadel. It means that we get strength after a pillar window. Really quite good spell because it prolongs our damage window. Fun to play. And we had the Frostwell, right? It means that we send off a little dragon, gives us mastery whenever you use pillar. We also have Shattering Strikes. I think this is going to be like a very positive thing for PvP players. It means that our Frost Strikes are going to hit incredibly hard whenever we consume 5 Raise Strike strikes. And that's very good for Frost DKs in PvP because it means that we get more big hits that provide more pressure and goes. When it comes to the playstyles, I think this is something that a lot of players are going to be happy about. So 2-handed Frost Obliteration is going to be very powerful in Dragonflight, as of what we know now, right? The fact that we can pick up Ice Cap and Obliteration at the same time is a huge boost for the build, and it just works really well with a 2-handed weapon. Furthermore, we now have access to Razorized application much easier, which means that we don't have the same kind of negative aspect of not having a double Runeforge. So if you felt like I couldn't really play Frost previously because the 2-handed big hitter build was a meta, you're going to be happy because in Dragonflight I very much believe that 2-handed Obliteration builds will be meta in pretty much the majority of circumstances really. For the cleave, right, we now have a lot of different things that makes us incredible at 2 targets, right? We have Definite Obliterate Cleave by default, really, because we picked that up in the class tree. We have Chill Streak, which is just insane for 2-target cleave, right? We have lots of like Remorseless Winter just doing the AoE damage. We have Breath, which also does very good 2-target cleave damage. There's just a lot of things in there which are incredible for 2 targets and don't really scale further, which means that we're very, very good at that 2-target scenario. I think Frost DK is going to be, as long as it's tuned well, it's going to be very powerful in dungeons where you don't pool that big. You know, if you have packs of 3 or 4 over and over, Frost DK is going to be really good at that. Furthermore, the fact that we have such short cooldowns is going to give us a very consistent damage profile, which means that every single pack we're going to do well because we have cooldowns for every pack. The tankiness, this is just because of the sheer number of defensive talents we can pick up. We have Permafrost, Veteran of the Third War, Gloom Ward, Blood Draw, Woolen Acropolis, and Unholy Endurance, right? It just means that we're much more tanky than everyone else, and we're probably going to be the last one to die unless we mess up, right? This is great both in Mythic class and in any progression environment. If you die, you have 0 DPS, so being tanky is a very good benefit. Now, expanding on the negatives, the utility aspect. This is primarily the fact that we don't have something like Chaos Brand or, you know, a raid buff which helps everyone. That has become more prevalent in Dragonflight and we still lack one. Sure, we have Death Grip, which is going to be mandatory in some fights, but still, when we don't need Death Grip, the DK doesn't bring that much. We have Magic Reduction with AMZ, right? We have that attack speed reduction on the boss, which doesn't stack with other attack speed reductions, by the way, which is, it doesn't really make up for it. To bring a DK, right? If you're in a very competitive environment, if the DK doesn't do that much damage, you can simply bench them, and that's obviously a negative. For the forced downtime, it's specifically when we play Breath of Sinagosa. Like if you press that button and then you force run out of melee, you can drop it and lose a significant chunk of your DPS. It sucks, right? Similar for obliteration, if you have to run out in the middle of your obliteration window, you lose a ton of your damage. It's not that bad though, because the windows come every 4 to 5 seconds, right? So it's not like you lose big CD like Breath does if you kind of are forced. Also, the window is much shorter for obliteration, only 12 seconds, so it's much easier to find that gap in a specific fight. Finally, the fact that we have such a strong cleave means that we sometimes are tuned a bit lower for pure single target. Essentially, if we were tuned very high on single target, we would be king everywhere. So I think they sometimes kind of like tone that down a little bit. I'm not sure if this is true, but it just feels that way, that classes that are generally very strong in AoE, I'm thinking about, you know, Monk, for instance, they don't do that much single target. And I think Frost DK sometimes also has that issue. We might be topping the meters, but it's usually damage that is not priority damage, which, you know, makes it not as useful. Cool, that was everything. I hope that will help you choosing a main. I will definitely play my Frost DK in Dragonflight. I think it's a very fun rotation, it's very smooth, and it's very satisfying. You know, who doesn't like getting those double 150k obliterate crits with your killer machine consumption in AoE? Like you do pop down Death and K, you get a killer machine, and you absolutely obliterate your enemies. Very satisfying. Leave a comment down below, let me know, are you going to play Frost DK in Dragonflight, or are you going to choose something else? Leave me an upvote, downvote, depending on what you thought about this video. Do consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you very much for watching, bye bye.